So Meta is suing UK speech regulator Ofcom, but no, it's not because they want to go ahead and protect digital rights or online privacy or anything like that. No, actually, they're just trying to negotiate how much money they're going to get fined by Ofcom. I mean, this is a case of trash versus garbage. Both parties actually want to go ahead and have mass surveillance throughout the world, but Meta is just not happy with the amount of money that they're going to be getting fined by the EU Commission and Ofcom in general. So if you guys remember, a few weeks ago, the European Commission actually went ahead and sued Meta and said that they were failing to protect children on their platform. So basically, they were saying they were failing to do that by not having proper ID age verification. So that would expose the company to fines of up to 6% of its global ad revenue. So that would actually expose the company to fines of up to 6% of its global revenue, which would be about $201 billion in 2025. So 6% of that. 6% of $201 billion is about $12 billion, which is actually quite a lot of money. It's not going to bankrupt Meta or anything like that. I mean, remember, they're worth about $1.5 trillion, but it's still a hefty enough amount of money for Meta to think, oh, actually, I don't know if we want to pay that. That is quite a lot of money there. So Meta, again, is not going to be suing Ofcom because they care about digital rights. I mean, remember, Meta is actually the company that is actually lobbying for ID age verification to begin with. They were actually exposed about a month ago from a Reddit user for actually having like millions, if not possibly billions of dollars put into lobbying for ID age verification laws because Meta is a shady company that wants to go ahead and collect all the biometric data from everybody around the world. So they don't have any type of problem having ID age verification on their platform. In fact, they want to. They were looking for an excuse to do it because they want that sweet, sweet data. The only point of this lawsuit is to negotiate how much they're going to be getting fined from Ofcom. So Meta filed a judicial review against Ofcom in London's High Court on Thursday over how the regulator calculates fees and fines under the Online Safety Act, the UK's online censorship law. What's funny about this is the company isn't challenging the law's censorship powers, its ability to compel scanning of encrypted messages, or its elastic definition of online harm. It is challenging the size of the fine. That is all they care about. How much money do we actually have to pay? The dispute centers on whether Ofcom should base penalties on Meta's global revenue or just what it earns in the UK, and the gap between those two figures is enormous. Meta reported roughly $201 billion in worldwide revenue last year, and the Online Safety Act lets Ofcom fine companies up to 10% of qualifying worldwide revenue. So that would actually be even more than what was initially proposed in that whole 6% of global annual revenue thing. This would put Meta's theoretical penalty ceiling near $20 billion. Now remember, again, not going to bankrupt Meta or anything, but that's still quite a lot of money. However, if they were only to calculate it based on Meta's UK only revenue, that number would collapse by a lot. So Meta's spokesperson over here says, we and others in the tech industry believe Ofcom's decisions on the methodology to calculate fees and potential fines are disproportionate. We believe fees and penalties should be based on the services being regulated in the countries they are being regulated in. This would still allow Ofcom to impose the largest fines in UK corporate history. So look at how shady Meta is being. So they're basically saying, hey, you know, that $20 billion you guys are proposing, that's quite a lot of money. We don't want to pay that. But hey, you guys could just calculate it based on our UK revenue instead, and that would still be the largest fine in UK corporate history. So they're basically trying to make it seem like whatever amount of money they would actually end up getting fined, which would be way less than $20 billion, which was originally proposed, is still like quite a lot of money. It's still one of the largest fines in UK corporate history. So why don't you guys just go ahead and calculate it based on our UK revenue? I mean, that seems fair to us. Get out of here with that, man. Meta is just so corrupt. Ofcom, which is, you know, also garbage in their own right, pushed back in a statement saying, disappointingly, Meta are objecting to the payment of fees and any penalties that could be levied on companies in the future that are calculated on this basis, which is a good point. Remember that if Meta wins this court ruling and they make it so Ofcom only can fine them based on their UK annual revenue, that would actually be a precedent going forward. It can only be based on their UK annual earnings as opposed to their total global earnings, which would make Ofcom in general make way less money. We all know that they only care about money themselves. So the trade body CCIA and Epic Games may also seek to intervene, with Matthew Sinclair, CCIA UK Senior Director, saying in a statement, CCIA supports Meta's challenge and intends to apply to intervene in order to assist the court in understanding the wider potential impact on the sector. Ofcom plans to send the first invoices in September, and a full hearing is expected in October. So if you guys don't remember what the CCIA is, they're actually that organization that went ahead and wrote that article opposing App Store age verification as well. So they seem to be against age verification in general. They wrote this article over here opposing App Store age verification and actually presenting a bunch of statistics on why it will fail. They were talking about the accuracy of AI facial scans being horrifically bad. And they had a specific panel that I frequently reference talking about the fact that people in different age ranges are actually being so falsely reported on how old they are by the AI facial scans that a lot of these companies are using that it's almost pointless to even have it. I mean, the point of the companies having it is because they want to harvest biometric data, but they mean pointless in terms of verifying someone's accurate age. The age estimation accuracy was super low for pretty much every age range. Doesn't matter if they were 18 to 24, 13 years old, 17 years old. It was super inaccurate for all these different age ranges. So basically the CCIA has been in this fight for quite a while now. Epic Games, and despite them having some shady practices on their own, Their CEO, Tim Sweeney, has actually been on Twitter going ahead and imposing IDH verification quite a lot. Despite me calling him out for going ahead and laying off like 1,000 employees in one day on March 24th of this year, I actually do remember him liking some of my tweets, and he's made plenty of tweets himself opposing IDH verification too, so not sure where his head is at. Doesn't really seem to appreciate his employees, and he's like probably replacing them with AI or something like that, but he does seem to be against IDH verification, so I guess we'll take it. But regardless, what makes Meta's challenge so revealing is what it concedes. As far as we can tell, the company accepts the Online Safety Act and its power to curb American speech. Despite the First Amendment, it accepts Ofcom's authority to regulate speech, to investigate platforms, and to punish them. It's asking for a smaller bill, not a different regime. Compare that to what the smallest platforms are doing. 4chan and Kiwi Farms, which you guys know are two US-based forums with no offices, employees, or servers in the UK, have refused to comply with the Online Safety Act entirely. When Ofcom fined 4chan £520,000 for failing to implement age checks and conduct risk assessments, the platform's lawyer, Preston Byrne, actually responded by posting an AI-generated image of a hamster. I remember talking about this before. So basically, Ofcom sent 4chan like a threatening letter like, hey, make sure you guys pay your fines or we're going to keep finding you guys more and more. And then 4chan's lawyer went ahead and just sent them an AI-generated hamster. And he was basically like, no, you guys are a UK-based organization. Why would we follow your guys' laws? We're in the United States, so why would we follow what the EU Commission wants to do? So they have still yet to pay any type of fine to Ofcom. And remember, 4chan is willing to fight against Ofcom and the EU Commission in general, despite them for the most part not really being profitable. They don't really have like employees and stuff like that. It's not like a thing where there's some sort of massive corporation where they're generating tons of revenue, and yet they're still going ahead and fighting against IDH verification. Same thing with Kiwi Farms. Kiwi Farms actually joined 4chan in suing the UK government over AI IDH verification laws, basically saying, you guys are violating our First Amendment rights. We should be able to do whatever we want on our websites as long as we follow the United States law, not your guys' law. And despite that, these two relatively small companies in comparison to Meta has $1.5 trillion net worth, and yet they're still over here bending over backwards to the government. Yeah, actually, we accept your fine. That's totally fine. Could you just make it a little bit less though? But yeah, we'll definitely do those IDH verification checks that you guys want. We don't want it. We're not lobbying for it with millions of dollars. We'll just do what you guys say because we want to protect kids. Ofcom, EU Commission, Meta, all of them are full of crap. I mean, all three of those organizations are all working together for mass surveillance, for taking away the digital rights of everybody around the world. So after Preston sent them the AI-generated image of a hamster, he said, in the only country in which 4chan operates, the United States, it is breaking no law, and indeed its conduct is expressly protected by the First Amendment. So again, 4chan has not paid a single dollar of the accumulated fines, and also Kiwi Farms joined them and filed a lawsuit in August of 2025, arguing that the regulator's enforcement demands amount to unconstitutional foreign censorship on American soil. Their lawyers called Ofcom's actions egregious violations of American civil rights and pointed out that every enforcement demand was sent by email, bypassing the UK-US Mutual Legal Assistance Treaty entirely. So it seems like Ofcom may have been violating some laws themselves, which they should actually get investigated because of that. And a FOI request revealed that Ofcom had issued 197 Section 100 notices to US-based companies as of February 2026, all without using MLAT. Only 4 American companies, 4chan, Kiwi Farms, Gab, and a mental health forum called SASU, publicly refused to comply. So all these other gigantic companies with all this money, YouTube, Meta, you name it, they're all just going ahead and bending over backwards and doing exactly what the UK wants, which again just shows that all these companies want one thing, which is your sweet data, your sweet biometric data and all that information, and yet they claim to be against it. I mean, we are all seeing through the facade here. And as Reclaim the Net points out, I mean, look at the contrast between the giant companies and the smaller companies. Smaller platforms with limited resources are challenging the Online Safety Act's legitimacy in federal court, fighting over whether a British regulator has any right to dictate what speech is allowed on American servers. However, Meta, a company that earned $201 billion last year and has spent years battling EU regulators through every available legal channel, does not challenge the entire censorship framework and is only negotiating over the accounting method used to calculate its contribution. They don't give a crap about the whole digital rights aspect of it. Meta is actually part of the problem. They are the ones lobbying for mass surveillance, so of course they don't have a problem with that. And as I point out, Meta is actually the company that could most easily challenge the Online Safety Act surveillance and censorship powers, including the ability to compel scanning of encrypted messages that Signal has said would drive it out of the UK entirely. Yet it is asking the High Court to please use a different revenue column when working out the fee. Blatant corruption. I've seen so many tweets and comments that I've gotten where they're like, well, you know that Discord or Roblox X or Meta or whatever, they have to follow these laws, right? I mean, they're being mandated by the government. No, they don't. Do you guys know that they have billions of dollars? In Meta's case, over $1 trillion in net worth. They can 100% fight these laws in court. They just choose not to because they themselves are also salivating at the fact that they're going to be taking all of our information. 99% of you guys know what's going on. You guys are smart. But for the 1% of you guys that are defending ID age verification, open your eyes, man. This is mass surveillance. Let me know what you guys' thoughts are in the situation in the comments. Meta is suing Ofcom, but not for good reasons. Please leave a like in the video if you enjoyed it and subscribe for more. See ya.